recorded, then we highly recommend you keep your screens on. This is supposed to be kind of like a meet everybody kind of event, and so we'd love to see your beautiful faces. Dylan and I are wearing masks. We're in the same room, so I mean, face. But you know, gotta keep safe. So, yeah, welcome. We're gonna get started with Paul, who's gonna introduce us, and then we have some amazing keynotes lined up for you guys. And so.
Oh, okay, awesome. Okay, awesome, everybody. Yeah, hello, good morning, good morning. It is a Saturday, it is early, and thank you all for taking time out of your morning to, I guess, join us and embark on this remarkable journey. I met Joe Carvin back when I was an intern for the Federated Conservation Westchester County. We're working on a Youth Climate Action Summit, and he really showed a tremendous commitment towards supplying after-school programming for people to kind of fill in the void for the lack of environmental scientists within our public education system. And when Joe reached out to me about this initiative he's doing, I told him I'll drop in a couple of Zooms, see how we can do. It's really remarkable what he's doing right now in terms of helping students gain access to resources from the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, Race to Zero campaign, to have school districts in Westchester County become carbon neutral by 2030. It is very, very remarkable. And I say this a lot of times. My boss, Nina Orville, is here. I say this all the time. If we can't do this here in Westchester County, we can't do it anywhere in the world. And this past July, I was given the opportunity to be named the United Nations Foundation Global Ambassador for the 13th Sustainable Development Goal Climate Action. And it's really exposed me to so many problems around the world and so many people that have don't have the privileges or the resource that we have here. I'm jumping on Zooms with people that only have access to the internet through a mobile hotspot device. And these are the people that are in frontline communities, people in communities like Bangladesh, people in communities like Thailand, people in communities like Senegal. I reached out to, I was in conversations with people in Alaska that are talking about their private waters being privatized by companies that I see in vending machines at train stations and things like that. So it's really about us being able to take a stand and really set the standard for the international community to show that we can get this done. This is the converted crowd. We have a great group here from our County Legislator Ruth Walter, who's our chair of the Environment and Health Committee for the Westchester County Board of Legislators, Peter McCart, who is our Director of Energy Conservation and Sustainability, Shelley Mayer, our State Senate Chair of Education, who, by the way, had a Zoom last year with the Federated Conservation Westchester County Student Network and showed the students how they could get the Environmental Sustainability Education Bill passed. So thank you, all of you, for your leadership. Of course, as well, Nina Orville, who is an environmental and energy czar for our county community. Thank you all for taking the time out of your very, very busy schedules on a Saturday morning, especially you students, to take a charge. You know, when I was in high school, your age, I was trying to become a master at playing Guitar Hero. I don't know if any of you know that game. That might be a little bit beside your time, but that was what I was doing. And the fact that you are taking the time out of your Saturday morning to learn about how you can take these resources and become stronger versions of Greta Thunberg, if we want to be honest, I think you guys are really the leaders, and you're showing that you're taking a charge for the future. So at this moment, I'm going to pass it back to, I guess, all right. So at this moment, I would like to give the floor to our wonderful county executive. I'm going to take this line for Peter. Elections matter. You know, the people that we have in government really make it easier for us to be able to pass legislation for the environmental protection or put a pathway towards sustainability. This is something that I personally had to learn and experience, to know that it's the people that you put into, it's easier to put people that are environmentally literate and care into office than try to convert the people in office to trying to care. So George has a long-standing commitment for the environment, from his conversations with Edith Reed or his conversations with lots of people, for his times in the legislature, the county board, state legislature as well. So I guess the man that needs no introduction, our fabulous county executive, the Honorable George Latimer.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being with you. And even more importantly, I appreciate that this conference, this Zoom exists, so that even on a Saturday morning where there are 1,000 other things we could be doing with our time, that we're doing everything we can to talk through these issues and get a game plan that can work. It is, you know, it's daunting to think about the problems of climate change in the macro. I am not a scientist by profession. I don't think I was particularly good in science when I was a kid in school. You hear about the potential of disaster that could befall the Earth, and not in 1,000 years, but in approximate time frame. And I have grandchildren now, and so I expect that if they have normal lifespans, they will live into the area of this great concern. And you don't want to just talk about it. You don't want to just read, the apocalyptic news about what could happen. You want to do something about it. And that's really what this conference is about. And that's really what our efforts need to be. Because it's so big, because it involves ultimately a worldwide response to this, there is a tendency for some to say, you know what could be done? I can't worry about it. Let me just go on and live my life and leave it at that. But that's not an option. Now, for those of us who are in local government, those of us who are in a town, a village, a city, in a county government, even in a state government, we have a small piece of the puzzle. But we have every opportunity to do things within that small piece of the puzzle that can make significant effort and result. And on top of that, it creates the right philosophical climate for us to lobby for the bigger things that need to be done. And I'll just give you a couple of very small examples, but they're important examples in terms of Westchester County. County government is not really known or understood by most people. It's a local government, but it's a regional local government that's bigger than the towns and cities. And we have certain responsibilities that the towns and cities don't have. One example is we run a bus system. Now, that bus system is more prominent in the southern part of the county, not as much in the northern part of the county. But we have 330 public buses that take people on the B-line system. And we're in the process now of converting those buses from the traditional diesel buses to hybrid electric and electric buses. And we know that if we can do that, the amount of pollution that we stop from being out in the air and the amount of shifting away from fossil fuel energy to electric energy is significant. And that's something that we can do. That's not what the federal government has to do or what the society has to do. That's what the county government has to do. Now, to buy an electric bus, to build an electric bus is expensive. It's more expensive than a diesel bus. So we have to be able to, using grant money and then our own tax dollars, make this conversion. So far, we have 178 out of the 330 buses converted. We have 6 full electric buses so far on order, and we tend to do more of it. We intend to build out the infrastructure for electric vehicle charging stations. We've added 10 stations at the North White Plains train station, and we have a number of charging stations at some of our golf courses and parks around the county, and we have more of that to do. When we have, as a society, an infrastructure for electric vehicles that equals the one that you have for standard gasoline-powered vehicles, then more people will get into electric vehicles, and we will make the transition away from fossil fuels in our automobiles. We've set target goals for 2030 and 2050 and all that kind of stuff. I hope I'm around to see the targets in 2050. But more importantly, we have to do things right now to help create that infrastructure. We're trying now to establish carports in our various parks that will be solar collectors. The amount of solar energy they generate will probably power the park itself, maybe take care of some other uses and take it off the grid, because we want the electricity on the grid to be available for other purposes. And we can use solar where we have it. We also have done a food composting program where we've encouraged the municipalities that started doing food composting, get food scraps out of the waste system, don't burn them to energy, compost them in an environmentally appropriate way. All of these things would seem to somebody as micro responses, just like, you source separated your house. You put, the plastics here and the metal and the cardboard and the different things so they can be disposed of effectively and differently. But that's what I have to do as a person. That's what we have to do as a county, as a city, as a state. And if we do those things and more, this is just the beginning. There's many more things that we can do. We have to advance the use of geothermal for heating homes rather than the traditional oil and gas structures. We have to be able to tap wind energy more profoundly. That's going to happen more at the state level than it would at the county level. And we've got to be creative. And we also, and this is the tough part, it's tough for me, I admit it, we have to change the way we consume things to use less energy. And that's difficult. That means that when it's a lot easier for me to get in my car and go someplace, I have to walk or take a bicycle in those places where I can. I can't, go from Rye to Peekskill by bicycle, but I can certainly go from Rye to Portchester by bicycle. There are things that can be done practically. So I'm happy to share a few thoughts. This conference conversation is going to be about a lot more than what I've just said. But we have a role to play in county government. We intend to play that role. We intend to play it alongside the people of One World and the energy and the youthful energy that comes out of this. Because as everybody will tell you who's in my age category, this is your world more than it's going to be my world. I have a limited time left here. You have a lot more time left here. But we have to do everything we can so that you can survive in this world and your children and your grandchildren.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Everybody can give a virtual round of applause for County Executive George Latimer. Amazing. Our next keynote speaker is incredible. We have Senator Mayer on. She's a state senator for New York and also the head of the Education Committee and our representative here in a lot of Westchester. So we're super excited. Welcome, Senator Mayer.
Thank you, Caitlin. It's really a pleasure to be here. Great to follow my friend, County Executive George Latimer, and really credit to, Caitlin, Dylan, Paul, and obviously Joe and all the leadership. I'm really excited because there are students on this Zoom, and that's really, this is the path forward, is the energy of students who have the power to change what's happening, not only in their school, but in their world. But this focus on these dual pledges that are going to be made today, which are so school focused, is a fantastic opportunity to harness both the vision and the courage of young people in changing the climate, literally and figuratively, in our schools. These schools belong to you. Taxpayers pay for them, the state regulates them. The energy and ability to change them very much vests in the people that attend them and the people that work there. And we haven't done a good enough job in empowering them. And that's why this conference is such a fantastic opportunity. So thank you for that. One of the things that particularly is important to me is that these school buildings have just a range of opportunities to improve specifically the climate change issues that are before us, whether it's energy efficiency, indoor air quality, putting solar on school buildings, decarbonization, all energy reduction in schools. This is something that can be done quickly. We don't have to wait for a long time, but we need the impetus. And today you're giving students and others the tools to push their schools to move ahead. We have to do it at a state level, but we also have to do it at a local level. And I'm just encouraging students, take back that power to go before your board of trustees and make the case that you can change what's happening in your school. The other thing is I've talked with a number of people here about school curriculum. We do want to see schools teach environmental justice. We want to see a robust curriculum around environmental issues, age appropriate from young to old. We need to ensure that our students in schools understand both the scientific and the moral imperative of climate change. So we are going to continue to work on that with the state education department to push our schools. The other is issues of food use in schools. Schools are still feeding breakfast and lunch. What are we doing with that food? How are we getting rid of food waste? What about job training? Career and technical education coming out of our schools? Are we training the next generation to take these skilled and well-paying jobs that will exist in the renewable energy sector and providing the tools? I'm a big fan of career and technical education. Everybody doesn't have to go get a PhD. Some people are going to be fantastic technicians and experts on renewable energy based on the skills they could learn in high school. We need to invest in career and technical education. So schools are, in some ways, and I'm so glad for Joe's focused on schools, schools are not only a laboratory, but they're an opportunity for courage and leadership. And that's why I'm excited to see so many participants of young people on this. And so I think that this dual pledge gives us sort of a concrete thing to aim for. And it's as it says, an aspirational tool, but it's a real tool to empower students, working with people like myself to try to make change. The other thing that's very exciting here, and Joe and I have spoken about it, is getting environmental clubs together to share best practices and ideas. If your high school or your college has an environmental club, are you talking to the others who are also working on the same issues and sharing best practices, sharing ideas? And of course, I have a special place in my heart for districts like Yonkers and Portchester, and that don't always have an environmental club in every school. And yet those kids are dying to make environmental change. Let's make sure that we spread out this enthusiasm and activism to every school in our community and in Westchester, and take the advantage of all the assets of Westchester in building towards this dual pledge. So I'm thrilled to be here. I really give so much credit to having not only the people of my age, but more importantly, the people of your age participating in an activist leadership way with the kind of courage and determination that is necessary to address climate change. And schools are the perfect place to focus our energy. So thank you for letting me come by, Caitlin, Dylan, everybody here. It's really a thrill, and I appreciate the opportunity to get a few words in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Merritt. Let's another round of applause. And Senator Merritt, you could not have done a better job of teeing up the next speaker. At the end of the day, you know, when you start these efforts, you're sort of out in the innovative curve pretty far out. But in the middle of this process, former President Obama's former Secretary of Education, John B. King, teamed up with Christine Todd Whitman, and for 1 year they talked about with educators across the nation about climate change. And they launched a K-12 climate action plan just 2 weeks ago. And I think thanks to you, Senator Mayor, thanks to County Executive Latimer, thanks to Mr. McCarter, who will speak in a second, our Chief Sustainability Officer, Marty Rogowski, the team here, the youth team here that's empowering, taking leadership, and demonstrating courage. And a lot of our volunteers are on this Zoom call today. Thanks to them, I think Westchester's demonstrating some of the kind of leadership that the K-12 action plan. So I want to introduce Laura Shifter. She's been taking time out of her Saturday on a holiday weekend to talk with us today, talk about the K-12 climate action plan. And I'm going to turn it over to Laura, and thank you so much.
Thank you all so much. It's really an honor to be here. It's so great to see the work that you all are taking on in Westchester County. And, you know, I feel really excited to be able to have this conversation with you all today. Just to step back and tell you a little bit about myself and where some of this came from. It was about 3 years ago now when there was the release of an IPCC report on 1.5 degrees warming, and you know, media outlets started splashing across the newspapers that we had a decade to address climate change. And that really hit me very hard in that moment, seeing the reality that my kids, I have 3 daughters, that they will be facing, and that this is a now problem. And there is an urgency that we all have to address it. And I spent a while, my background's in education. I'm a lecturer at Harvard's Education School. I've worked in education policy for several years, and I spent some time trying to figure out how I could get involved in the climate space. And it was a couple months after this moment happened for me that, you know, I realized what you all have realized in your community as well, is that education itself actually provides a huge opportunity to make change in addressing climate change. And we don't need to look to a space that we don't know to make a difference. We can actually look to what
frozen screen.
Okay, sorry, I think that you have frozen. If you can still hear this, we're gonna share a video that is from the K-12 climate action, just in the meantime until technology gets on our side again. Okay.
Oh wait,
she's back.
You're back.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. So I'm not sure where I cut out, but just to keep going. And I think, you know, that Senator really laid it out very well in thinking about what we started to realize is the framework that we can apply in having schools help address climate change. And what what we've looked at is what schools can do in terms of mitigation and reducing their environmental footprint, what schools can do in terms of adaptation. I mean, ultimately, schools across the country have been experiencing climate impacts. They've had to close as schools have been trying to reopen after the pandemic. And we really need to think about how we better adapt and increasingly prepare our schools to address climate impacts. Thinking about education and what we can do in terms of teaching climate change, but also teaching climate solutions. Solar panels on the roof mean students have the opportunity to engage with clean energy. They can see it. They can build their own solar panels. They can build their own electric batteries and kind of integrate those climate solutions into the classroom and integrating sustainable practices. So things like composting, and students will be able to then take what they know about composting home and integrate that there. So what we've really done with K-12 Climate Action is outlined a framework and an action plan by which schools can help support climate action within their communities. And I am so encouraged to see the work that you all are doing, that you have young people leading the charge in this work in your community. And I think one of the things that I hope you all know and see the potential is that your work is really connected to also a national movement. And national leaders are really saying that this is a critically important issue as well. We need to show our young people in our country how much we care about their future. And one way of doing that is really advancing climate solutions in their schools. And so we have a video. I'm not sure if it's going to work to show the video, but I wanted to show you some of the national leaders we have involved in this and them talking about why this issue matters to them as well. So thank you all again for having me here, and good luck with your conversations today.
Show the video.
Thanks so much. Yeah. We'll get the video queued up. It's right here.
As an educator and as the father of 2 daughters, I worry a lot about the world that we are leaving our young people. It is a world deeply damaged by our reliance on fossil fuels. And the question is, how do we move forward from here?
I can't imagine a future for my daughter where she doesn't have access or opportunities to connect with the land the same way I did because of climate change.
I realize that if I want my daughters to be able to have the choice to live in South Florida 30, 40, 50 years from now, we're going to have to take action.
When I served as mayor of New Orleans, I witnessed the impact of climate change directly. It came with the increasing intensity of hurricanes and floods.
When I see the climate crisis, I see it putting so much pressure and weight on people's ability to just exist as they are.
We know that the impact on the environment has a real significant impact on children's ability to learn.
This is the moment where we have to make a decisive commitment to create the cleaner future that can stave off the worst impacts of climate change.
Inequity is the challenge of our lifetime, and the only way that we're going to overcome these inequities in our society is through the future leaders that we have in schools.
I am very concerned about climate change, and I recognize that schools offer us a huge opportunity.
The education establishment is a very large industry, and there's a lot that can be done.
In the places I'm from, quality climate education could make such a difference in people's lives, and I would really love to make that happen in my lifetime.
Public schools can prepare and have to prepare our kids for the high-wage, high-skilled jobs in a new clean economy.
Our students are our future. The leaders of tomorrow are being educated in our classrooms today. Why would we not want them involved in the climate dialogue right now?
Great, thank you so much. That was an amazing video. So many national leaders on board with this, and it's just insane how many people are on board with this, and the potential that we have for change right now.
Peter.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So
Laura.
yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. Joseph, thank you. Our next speaker is going to be Peter McCart from the Westchester Government, Director of Sustainability. And he is involved in so many things. You've probably seen his face before, and we are so excited to have him on this call.
Thank you very much, Caitlin and Paul and Joe and the whole team there, Dylan, everybody involved. I do say it all the time, Paul, elections do have consequences. We're very fortunate to have people like Shelley Mayer and Governor Hochul and all the legislators that we have in Westchester are all 100% committed to what we can do on climate here in the county. I got involved with this. I've been told to keep this short, so it's not going to be a problem there. I got involved in this space about 15 years ago when I had a daughter. Now she's a senior in high school, and I do these things for them and her friends and her children's children. And we've been making the college tours right now, and every college promotes their sustainability programs, their environmental program. We didn't have that when we were in college, and that's very inspiring. I'm not going to. George did a good job of going through all the things we have. He skipped over a lot of other things that we have going on, but there's not enough time for it all. We have our hands on a lot of different things. But I would like to say that we have our part of the government covered. Many of the municipalities in Westchester, but not all, are doing anything and everything they can. We also had a spinoff. This was during the Spano years. They created what was called the Green Business Council at the time. It's now called the Green Business Partnership to work with the businesses. So we got the government, we got the businesses. One thing we're missing are the schools and the education system. We don't have a lot of purview over the schools. We're here to support them and do whatever we can when we can. But really, it's a hands off. There's boards and there's a whole process of governance for the schools, so we can only help them. And I'm the chair of the Eastchester Environmental Committee, and we have a liaison from the Green Committee that sits on ours, and we help them, they help us. Engaging that is an important component of this. And speaking of another hat I wear is I sit on the board of a founding board member of Sustainable Westchester, and I proudly served there. And that's why I'm happy to be on here with Paul. Paul's an employee, but also Nina Orville. And I'll tee it up there for Nina. Very, very proud to be working with Nina for a long time. She's energetic, innovative, and I'm excited to have her as the executive director of Sustainable Westchester. Thank you. And I'll be here all day, open for questions.
Thanks very much, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for
Yep. Thank you so much, Peter. I noticed that your client reality pin, very good, because Al Gore did warn us a very, very long time ago what's happening. So I just want to introduce our next speaker, who is our wonderful executive director for Sustainable Westchester, our nonprofit consortium of 44 local governments. Nina, the floor is now yours to.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here this morning and grateful to the extraordinary organizers of this event and impressed to see so many students and educators spending their morning here. So Sustainable Westchester's role is to help the county achieve New York State's extraordinarily ambitious climate goals. Those include moving from currently less than 30% renewable electricity supply on our electric grid to 70% in just 8 or 9 years. It's also really important for everyone to be aware that New York State has a requirement that a lot of the investment that goes into achieving those climate goals, a target of 40% of that investment, that flowed to disadvantaged communities in New York State. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity, a lot of change, a lot of programming, and a lot of investment coming. Our programs are designed to bring renewable energy, energy efficiency, electric vehicles, and more to Westchester in a way that benefits everybody here in the county. And as the speakers to date have all been saying, but just to reiterate, the voices of young people in particular are so powerful in calling for the change that has to take place. Any steps that are taken now or that aren't taken have an impact on the world that you'll be living in. And so I join everyone else who's spoken to date to really encourage you to continue to stay involved and to call for action in your schools and communities. Anyone who's interested in volunteer opportunities at Sustainable Westchester or learning about the programs that we can help provide to your schools, including there's an opportunity for solar installations on schools in Westchester County that Peter McCart is partnering with Sustainable Westchester and the New York Power Authority on. Reach out to the wonderful Paul Pressenvieux to learn more about how you can get involved in this work. We want to partner with you to ensure that we're protecting your right to a stable and safe climate, and that you and your community has access to all the benefits that can come from this transition to clean energy and environmental sustainability. So I wish you a wonderful conference. And again, I'm so thrilled to be here this morning. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you so much. Yeah, Sustainable Westchester is really at the forefront of everything that's happening here in Westchester. And so we're super happy to have you on. Our final, and Paul just put the contacts for Sustainable Westchester in the chat if you're interested in reaching out about volunteer or anything else. And our final keynote for today is County Legislator Ruth Walter, who I've been doing environmental stuff for a couple of years at this point, and like Legislator Walter has been there since the very beginning, supporting everything that's happening, and she's fantastic. She's now the head of the environmental committee for the County Board of Legislators, and so I'm super excited to have her. And Legislator Walter, take it away.
Thank you, Caitlin, and thank you, Paul, Nina, Shelley, George, everybody who's here, Team Green. It is incredibly important to know your local electeds, to communicate with your local electeds, to put your agenda items in front of them. I salute Caitlin and Sunrise Westchester, because they really did an effective job at bringing an issue to us at the board. It was a success, and we're not finished. But you know, it is true that young people, especially, their voices are listened to, and your voices are listened to when you are together. So one person is not going to be as effective as 30 people. And you guys have organized young people. I had 3 interns campaigning with me last week, and you know, they're tremendously involved in understanding what it is to campaign. I am in an active campaign. I have to leave quickly after this. I'm sorry. My opponent is not as dedicated as I am to the environment. I will say that. I am a small business owner. We've been doing sustainable practices since we began. My journey for environmental activism started with a little video called The Story of Stuff, which talked about how important it is to not just do your own part, but also collectively pressure governments and businesses to change their ways. And changing their ways, and now is what we're talking about at the county. I have been able to do one I'm very proud of this significant achievement. We put in fast fill water fill stations, like you see at the airport sometimes, in the budget for county park, so $750,000. We're also got a commitment from the Parks Department to look at any capital project and include a new water fountain like that, because we cannot get away from single-use plastic unless we assure people that clean, filtered, chilled water is available to them when they're walking around. This is a first world country. We should not be using plastic water bottles. And it's just it's a habit and a pattern that I'm happy to be pushing the effort to get people away from. So there's so many issues. Shelley has, has a both fingers and on both hands and all toes issues. She's a wonderful leader and a mentor. George Latimer and his team on the 9th floor, we're with him on initiatives to make our county cleaner and more sustainable, including in electric vehicles. I just bought one, so I'm very excited to be a plug-in electric vehicle driver. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat. Thank you for doing this. Thank you, Paul, and all the leaders, Dylan, for organizing. And please get your local legislators' phone number on speed dial, have conversations in groups, and let's push these agenda items forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth.
Let's have a round of applause. Great job, Ruth. Thank you so much. Westchester County, Greene County, USA. Let's hear it. Woohoo! Look, first of all, I want to thank all our youth volunteers with Caitlin, Paul, and Dylan. They put untold hours into this. And I think you can see the benefit from what's happening. We got a number of our volunteers on. So listen, I'm really thrilled today to have two of the leading climate change actors on the planet Earth working with us today. Now, I see Alex Green. I'm not sure. Miguel, are you with us today? So somehow Miguel is not yet with us. So what I'm going to do.
Perhaps Miguel has made the same mistake with time zones as I nearly did and nearly turned up an hour late. So
I was wondering what was happening to you guys. I was getting nervous. And so, Alex, what I'm going to do, Dylan, we have a presentation. And what we're going to do, so we're talking about a dual pledge. And again, we're working with two of the leading climate change actors on the planet Earth, Miguel, if we can find him, and Alex Green, who did get the right time zone. So ultimately, Bill Gates, in his new book, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster, says this is if people think it's easy to do, they're wrong. If people think it's impossible to do, they're wrong. But what we do need is an unprecedented level of cooperation, not just in Westchester County, but across the globe. So I want to thank Alex for being here. Alex is in the UK. As most of you know, COP26 is going to happen in November of this year. It's the annual Conference of Parties conference organized by the UNFCCC. And each year that they do that, they bring in a climate change champion. And the UK climate change champion is Nigel Topping. And like what Shelley's talked about, what K-12 action plans talked about, they are really working with schools across the United Kingdom. And Alex Green is leading a fantastic effort called Let's Go Zero, where they're encouraging schools across the United Kingdom, 5,000 schools, to become net zero by 2030. So, Don, I'm asking you to go forward. Actually, Alex, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself quickly. And then I think if Miguel, if we don't see him, we'll go forward to your slides. So,
well,
Alex.
hi there. Hello, everyone. My name's Alex Green. I work for a charity called Ashton in the UK. And so I'm joining you today from a quite sunny southeast of England. And it's a real pleasure to be here. And so I run Let's Go Zero. It's a campaign for schools across the UK. And I will talk to you in a bit about why we chose to work with schools. What is that role of schools in decarbonising our societies? And then I'll tell you a bit more about the campaign and how it sits with the dual pledge.
Okay, great. So I think what we're going to reverse our order, Dylan, if you go down to the Let's Go Zero slides, keep going a little bit. And then, Alex, you'll just tell us when to go forward with your slides. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Okay, over to you. Alex.
Nothing like a bit of flexibility, and we're here. We can go change at any moment. So yeah, really, really great to be here and to be joining you. And I guess to share with you about why. Probably nearly 2 years ago, we had conversations with the fantastic Nigel Topping, the climate champion, and came up with the idea that we wanted to be able to demonstrate the ambition of schools. So if you go on to the next slide,
Now, we see the role of schools as being really fundamental in decarbonising society. And the reason why is because in the UK, as well as in the States, that 1 in 6 people go to school every day. There's a really large portion of our society that are in a school every day. And some of those are students and some of those are teachers. And in the UK, it's 9.5 million students that we have across the UK. So there's this really big group of people that are in schools every day. And that also, it doesn't stop there. There's also the people that are fixing the boilers when the heating system doesn't work, and making the school lunches and running the before school and after school clubs, and all the people that are involved in that big system and sector that is schools and education. And we also know that their reach as schools goes straight out into our communities, into our homes and into our businesses. So depending on which area and the economics, you tend to have between 40 and 50% of your households have school age or younger children in them. So that's a really good link in to nearly 50% of every household in that town, in that community. And that's something that we think is a really good thing to harness as we move towards trying to decarbonize society. And we have to be really honest about this. In fact, that schools and education aren't one of the really big hitters. They're not one of our massive problem sectors. They're not one of the big, dirty, bad guys that we need to really sort out. But because of this opportunity of their influence, that makes them really, really exciting. And yes, they do spend a considerable amount of money on energy and on products and procurement, that things that they buy within their schools. So they've got a lot of sort of voting power in what they spend and what they do. And there's also quite a lot of estate, land that they manage and look after on behalf of all of us. So they do have an influence. But that's not why we work with them. It's because of that influence that they have into communities. So if you are to change the way school children have lunch, what they can bring in their packed lunch, as we call them, their lunch from home, whether they can bring in anything that's wrapped in plastic or individually wrapped or in disposable plastic. If you make a rule in a school that says, well, no more single-use plastic, that doesn't just influence what they bring to school, but it influences what people buy in the local shops and what they do. And when a school invests in looking at their travel scheme and putting in cycle lanes so children can cycle to school and people can be more active in the way they travel to school, we know that then influences the way the mums and dads get to work after they've done the school run, and it influences the way other people travel around the town. And we learn from our buildings, not just in them. So we have that great way to sort of link into what we're learning. And for those of you on this call who aren't students, who maybe it was a little while ago that you were at school like me, you close your eyes, I bet you can picture your classrooms, you can imagine those teachers, you remember those teachers that were really influential in what you did and what you became as an adult. And that's that real harness. So we've created Let's Go Zero to be able to quantify, to be able to say, we know how many schools are really trying to do this and that they want help to do more. So it's a campaign any school across the UK can sign up, and it has to be the school leader. So it's not a child in the school, because although the voice of children is really important, it's even more powerful when the head teacher says, I agree, we should do this as well as a school. So that's what it is. It's pulling together that vote, that show of ambition and demand, that we can then take that we show that to the government, to our Department for Education. We say, look, schools want to take action. How can you help them? What can you do to help them to do more? And we've got lots of brilliant organisations supporting it across the UK. And it's so exciting to know that schools in Westchester are also really engaging with this. And brilliant to see that you're looking at not just that immediate impact now, and looking at how you can be taking action and offsetting immediately, but also that longer term vision to show that you want to be zero carbon by 2030. So thank you very much for having me. Brilliant to be here. And I will now pass you back to Joe.
Sorry, let's have a round of applause for Alice Green all the way from the UK. Great job. Go to the front of the presentation. Alex, I can't thank you enough. You know, and just to be clear, so Alex, a couple of things. One, your 5,000 school goal. I think you've already got 500 schools lined up. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we've just this week had our 500th school sign up. So it's really sort of ticking along, and we're really excited to take those numbers to COP because it's a really big global stage. We've got lots of exciting events happening with lots of partners, and we really hope to sort of wave it in front of our world leaders and say, look at what schools can do. Isn't this exciting? Let's help them do more.
Fantastic. In addition, Alex, I wanted to give a shout out to our friends here in Westchester, because my understanding is Westchester is the very first place in the world where the Let's Go Zero campaign is being launched outside the UK. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yes. So well done. Congratulations to you all. And there's such a celebration that we're going beyond our borders, beyond the UK. So thrilled, absolutely brilliant, and well done to you all.
Totally. Bravo, Alex.
Mr. McCart, Mr. Latimer, Madam Mayor, Senator Mayor, fantastic work. Okay, so I'm going to take over for Miguel. Boom. Next slide. So Miguel ultimately, so what's happened? We've been working with the UNFCCC at One World since 2017. And Peter McCart, you were there when we co-organized with Sustainable Westchester, a climate change conference in New York that was keynoted by the President of Finland and Patricia Espinosa, the Executive Secretary of the UNFCCC. Patricia Espinosa arguably is the most powerful climate change person on the planet Earth, alongside Nigel Topping, because she organizes the annual conference of party process. We'll have a breakout to talk more about that later on. And Miguel Alejandro is my favorite partner across the globe. I don't know what happened to him today. He must have gotten the time zone. But anyway, I think he wanted to test me. So the interesting thing here is the UNFCCC program is an annual program where we're going to talk about in a second, where the end goal for all of this is climate neutrality. But in the meantime, we're trying to achieve carbon neutrality, and I'll talk about that in the next slides. And it's a bit confusing, but basically carbon neutrality in the UNFCCC program involves measuring your carbon footprint. You see at the top of the screen, reducing your carbon footprint, and then offsetting with the UNFCCC sponsored program. Eventually, then, so that's an annual program. Now, part of the opportunity and part of the challenges, and we'll see some of the presentations, is that you achieve carbon neutrality through offsets. So that's good. You need the offsets, and effectively what we end up doing is sending money, as we'll hear a little bit later on, from the wealthy countries like Westchester. Paul talked about Westchester being resource rich, and ultimately sending funds to India so they can do green projects from day one, where they don't have as much capital as we do. So that's the offset. That's why I like working with UNFCCC offset program, but that's not enough. It's a first step. So it's an annual program, first step. And that's why I was so thrilled when I saw the work that Alex is doing, where, okay, we're going to take that first step. We're going to become carbon neutral today with offsets. But you know what? We want to spend the next 10 years becoming sustainably carbon neutral. So we're setting that ambitious aspirational goal for 2030. And that's why we have the dual pledge. So we really have both steps. And I can't wait to work with climate change people across Westchester to achieve that.
He's here now.
Oh, Miguel. Okay, next slide. Miguel. I go to the next slide. Okay. Miguel, are you with us?
Yes, good morning, afternoon from here. I thought we were starting in 5 minutes, so apologies. Hi, Alex.
No problem. No problem. So listen, Alex made the same mistake. She just happened to log on a bit earlier. So Miguel, I'm going to go to the next slide, and then we can pick up. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm over to you, Miguel. I gave the introductory slides already. You know, me and you were like twins these days. I've heard the presentation. I feel like an honorary member of the UNFCCC. So I'm going to turn it over to you here from here, Miguel.
Okay, thank you so much. Apologies again for the misunderstanding. Good. So thank you for the introduction. So as Joe probably already told you, we run this initiative that is called Climate Neutral Now. which is very much aligned with what Alex is going to present as well on Let's Go Zero. But basically what we invite you to do as a school, and it's the same that we ask from all our participants, private companies, and everybody else, is to do 4 things. 1, calculate the emissions that the school is responsible for. That we call measure, right? It's the estimation, the calculation of the greenhouse gas emissions that the school is responsible for. Then, second, try to reduce those emissions. You can do that through a series of actions. Then, optionally, and this is not compulsory, measure and reduce are compulsory for participation in Climate Neutral Now. The third, contribute, is not, is optional. And right now, this means offset, meaning purchase carbon credits, third-party certified carbon credits, to compensate for those emissions that you were not able to avoid. Nobody can avoid all emissions yet. So this compensation is one option to try to take responsibility for them. And finally, report every year on your actions. So what was your estimation of emissions, how you tried to reduce, and finally, if you compensated, how much. For doing that, what you get is recognition. You will get to use the Climate Neutral Now logo for your communications. You will be listed on our website. And of course, we will be able to support you in going through the whole process of measure, reduce, and compensation if you choose to. One World is, I think, as you said, Joe, is already up to speed on how to do this as well, but we're always ready to support. Now, on the last step, the optional one of contribution or offsetting, there are many different types of carbon credits that you can use. These images illustrate some of them. You have from electric motors for airplanes when they are taxiing on the ground, to manure management in farms. You have from the typical renewable energy, wind, solar, etc., to bike sharing schemes. There is a lot to choose. And the idea is through the compensation, one rewards and encourages the development of this type of project, in particular in developing countries, which require additional resources to do this. Next, please. So as I hope Joe was able to explain, I'm sure that he was, carbon neutrality, the measure, reduce, and compensate with carbon credits, is the first step, hopefully, in a longer journey. The next step is net zero emissions. So a complete balance between what we emit to the atmosphere and what is removed from it, so that we have complete balance in the atmosphere. And further on, climate neutrality, but this is further down the road. Right now, we need to focus on achieving net zero as soon as possible. Next, please. And I think that was it from my side. So I hand over to, okay, we already had Alex. Joe?
Sorry, Miguel. So we've had Alex present. So ultimately, so now what we're going to do is talk a little bit about how we implement what we just heard from Miguel in Westchester. And by the way, all of the presentations that you see today are going to go on our website that Dylan's going to present at the end of the day. And so there's 2 links to the UNFCCC calculator that Miguel pulled together with his team. And Miguel's trained our team. And again, he's offering, as you just heard, to train your school on the calculation. That's the first step. And then the next step then is what I find, next step, next slide, please. Next slide. So here, Miguel, if you talk to the different scopes and reduction.
All right, so when you open the calculator and you see it, don't get scared because of all the options.
We're here to help. We're here to help.
We're just giving you a bunch of options so that you can calculate as precisely as possible your emissions. So don't get scared. It's not that you have to fill every single cell in the calculator. It's only the cells that are relevant to you. And that's the first thing. Now, once you have a look at it, you will see that the emissions that one is responsible for, or organizations are responsible for, are classified in 3 types, the ones that you see here. Scope 1 is your direct emissions, those that you are producing yourself directly. For example, if you drive the cars that belong to the school, if the school has energy generation in the premises. That's not very common, I guess, in the US, but it's more common in developing countries. So any emissions that are happening directly under my control. That's scope 1, quite easy to estimate. Then you have a scope 2. This is the energy that we purchase, mainly electricity, but in some places you may be purchasing also heating, district heating, in very warm countries, district cooling. So this energy that we buy from third parties, it's scope 2, also quite straightforward to calculate. And finally, you have everything else, all other kinds of emissions that you, or sources of emissions that you can imagine, even remotely associated with running the school. So this means the transportation of kids and staff to school if the buses are not owned by the school, the food that you serve, the water that is consumed, the waste that is generated, lots and lots of things. This is more complex to calculate. So for scope 3, usually one starts with the easiest items, those that we know a little bit better. And as we get more comfortable with that, one can start adding more and more sources to that calculation. Good, and if we go to the next one, oh, sorry, you are on mute, Joe. You were saying something, huh?
Yeah, so my wife wishes she had a mute button so she can figure out when I talk and don't talk. Sorry, I apologize. I just wanted to emphasize one of the important points Miguel made. Do not let the perfect get in the way of the good. This is a process. Again, we're hoping to do this every year for the next 10 years. And again, the whole thesis here, imagine if every school in Westchester County signs that dual pledge. What message are we sending to the world? Wow. And so we're very fortunate to have Miguel guiding us through this process, but you can start with scope 1 and then go 2, 3. So take your time. It's a process. It's a learning process. I know my good friend Paul took the UNFCCC calculator class. We loved it. It was nothing but fun. Oh, I'm sorry. Next slide, Miguel.
Thank you. No, very important message indeed. Many companies, even the big ones, are still figuring out their scope 3 emissions, by the way. So, you know, everybody is still trying to get a hold of this and make it more, or the calculations more credible. So we are all on the same boat. Start us with what you can. So good. So once you know where your emissions are coming from, the next step is to look at how to reduce or avoid those emissions in the first place, which is the key here. This slide just lists a few ideas that are very straightforward and applicable in the majority, at least, to schools. And we have a more comprehensive list that Joe and Tim have available. But it's basically things like changing the light bulbs for more efficient ones, trying to promote the use of public transportation, reducing the amount of waste that is generated. Here, usually we think about food waste, for example, reduce food waste, reduce use of paper, things like this. They might seem as small actions to take, but they are important. Just to give you one example, we have our big conference coming now in November. They're called the COPs. And these COPs have thousands of people coming together to try to advance solutions on climate. We used to consume paper for it, right? Each COP, each meeting, we would use around 100 tons of paper for you to have an idea. So just the decision of making the COPs paperless is saving 100 tons of paper, plus all the transportation and all the energy and everything else that is related to the waste that is generated at the end of all that paper goes to trash cans. So even when you consider that some actions may be small, still they add up, right? A lot of small actions add up. So just do whatever you can. Some of them are very easy. Some others require some resources, money usually to implement. So you start with what you can.
Miguel,
and finally,
Miguel, I'm just going to say, just so we've advanced a little bit here, but one thing I want to be clear. So remember, measure, okay, how are we doing? reduce where we can. We just heard that. And then if possible, if you're in a resource-rich environment, hopefully compensate. And certainly those of us that live in Westchester in a resource-rich environment. Now, you can compensate in a number of different ways. The reason I love working with the UN is they have a very well-established compensation program. And we just went to the website, which you'll see. And I'm just going to, can we look at this project, the Tampar Awala project? And ultimately, Miguel, right? So if what your school is 200 tons, one way you can compensate is to offset. Scroll down, if you would, all the way down. You get a description of the project. Keep going. And put in 200 tons where it says tons. And then go to the cart. And then view cart. And it costs your school $300. And then you would invest in this project. So what we're doing here, the reason I love working with every one of their projects, I'm asking you how you develop these projects, Miguel, and the due diligence you do behind these projects to give us confidence that this money is going to go to, I think this project's in India, and ultimately help a green project get developed in a way that makes sense. And we're going to hear later from Portchester how they turn this into an educational opportunity. But Miguel, if you could just finish up by telling us this compensation program.
Thank you. So yes, actually, the only thing I can add is a little bit of information on how these projects happen. And the idea is that anyone who has an idea to reduce or avoid emissions through a given project has to follow an established methodology. So it's not that you're just going to go plant some trees in your backyard, or you're just going to start using the bike to go to school instead of the car, and then you get some carbon credits for it. No, there is a whole methodology approved by experts, international experts from all over the world, that decide how you are going to implement the project. It's not that you can do it any way you want. Once you are ready to implement the project, your project plan has to be checked, verified that it meets all of the requirements of the methodology, all of the rules. This is done by an authorized certifier, an auditor. And then when they are happy, they send everything to us. We check everything again in the Climate Change Secretariat, and then our bosses, national governments, decide if it is approved or not. Once they are happy, they approve it, you go ahead and you implement the project. And then, no, you still don't get your carbon credits yet. You have to implement the project, and then every year or every two, up to you, you have to request these carbon credits, and you have to bring another auditor to check that you actually did the things as they were planned, and that you did everything correctly. Then when everybody's happy that that's the case, you finally get the carbon credits. So what you're doing basically is rewarding a project that has made a lot of effort in avoiding or reducing emissions, and through that also encouraging others to do the same, right? Because this is a business. You gain some money, some income because of the sale of these carbon credits. So the last thing, our projects are based only in developing countries, which means that you're also making a contribution to making a financial contribution to support sustainable development in developing countries. And I think I leave it there, Joe.
Fantastic, Miguel. Let's give Alex and Miguel a round of applause. I can't thank enough. And the one thing I wanted people to get a sense of is how rigorous this program is. This is best in class, climate change thinking, and it's evolving, right? It's dynamic. There's 199 countries or entities involved in this process. Remember, unprecedented cooperation across. But again, Miguel is really overseeing this whole effort with the as Executive Secretary Espinosa, organizing the annual conference of parties climate change process. And so let's give Miguel and Alex one more round of applause. And I think, Caitlin, are we going to take a 3-minute break now? Is that what's up next?
We're going to take, let's do a 3-minute break.
3-minute break.
We're a little behind on schedule. So we're going to come back at 10:12.
We're going to come back at 10:12 on the nose. Miguel, Alex, thanks so much. And get ready now. We're going to hear from Westchester Environmental Clubs, right?
And we're going to go in the order, as Jen was saying, as Jen was asking, of alphabetical order of schools. So
in alphabetical order.
The order in the chat. Okay, I'm going to put on a song while we wait. And
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay.
Thanks, Miguel. Thanks, Alex. Thanks so much.
Okay, everyone, welcome back. We just finished up our little break there with some nice John Lennon. We got some classic songs going on at this conference. And here at the beginning, we had some lovely ones. We were waiting for people to come on. So we're going to kind of what somebody call the meat and potatoes of our conference here today, and that is the presentations from different schools around Westchester County. So the whole point of this conference, we had lovely keynotes, and the UNFCCC and Let's Go Zero campaigns were amazing to hear from. But the whole point of this conference is really to connect our schools, right? And so in this middle section, we're going to be hearing from, I put in the chat, the order of schools. We're going to hear from students from all of these places, talk about what their environmental clubs have been doing, and talk about what their schools have been doing in terms of sustainability in general. These are really student leaders, and this is really exciting. After we hear from these schools, each are going to give 2-minute or less presentations. If you guys could please keep it to the time, because we're already running a little behind, that'd be great. Then we're going to go into breakout rooms, and we're going to talk a little bit about what everybody heard, and talk about any ideas people have of like, oh my God, Byram Hills is doing this really cool thing that I really want to replicate over at Mamaroneck. I'm at Mamaroneck, by the way. And so, yeah, this is going to be great. We're going to kick it off with Jane from Byram Hills. Take it away, Jane.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jane. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm from, oh, my face is big. Sorry, I've been pinned to the screen. I'm not used to that. Anyways, I'll talk a bit more about the Byram Hills Sustainability Initiative, which is our environmental club at Byram Hills. We are really initiative based, and one of the main initiatives that we have is called the Pop Top Recycling. And it's where the small tops on soda cans are recycled by the Ronald McDonald House to raise money for families battling pediatric cancer. It might seem small in nature, and it is, but it's actually been really successful in promoting recycling overall. We noticed that once we started implementing this program, our paper and plastic recycling also went up a lot, just because we got people who weren't necessarily thinking about recycling to start thinking about it a bit more. And so I'd love to maybe even promote that in other schools with a friendly competition to see who can collect the most pop tabs. We have another popular initiative called PEAL, which stands for Peer Environmental Education Leadership. And this is where we create different video lessons and go on Zooms and create worksheets to teach elementary school students about environmentalism as a whole. Last year, we focused a lot on single-use plastics and explained to students how they can decrease their use of single-use plastics. This year, we hope to be a bit more climate focused. And this has also been successful because our school really does not have any environmental education. And this has been a good way to promote this in younger students and kind of infiltrate their minds when they're still forming and start good behaviors from a young age. Another big thing that we were able to do is ban plastic straws, and we were able to convert to paper straws. We also have a TerraCycle program where the chip bags can be recycled by the organization TerraCycle. We also do spent battery and light bulb drives every year. We also organized an interesting book read last year where we had teachers and students all read a page from a book, Not For Me, Please, I Choose to Act Green. It's a children's book. We put it into a video, shared it with the elementary students in the local library. And this was just another great way to promote environmentalism for younger students. Those are the majority of our current initiatives. And yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jane. That's awesome. Yeah. Round of applause. Our next school is going to be Dobbs Ferry with Claudio, I believe. And just so you know, for any of these schools, if you guys have a presentation that you shared with us beforehand that you want us to share, just say that at the beginning when you unmute. Awesome. Take it away. Dobbs Ferry.
Hi, everyone. My name is Claudio. I'm a student at Dobbs Ferry High School, and I'm going to speak to the importance of direct action and the successes that our environmental club has had with using direct action as a form of student engagement in the fight against climate change. Oftentimes, a problem that many environmental organizations face in recruiting new members or mobilizing current ones is exactly this slowdown in activity, which further challenges the organization's ability to contribute to the fight against climate change and further generates disengagement of the members of the organization and so on, in like a vicious cycle of sorts, which could be really disastrous for any organization, really. And though it is very common, it's not really unresolvable. In fact, the environmental club here at Dobbs Ferry has struggled with this problem like many similar organizations, but we've overcome it through the use of direct community action. direct community action would mean the mobilization of both the organization's members and the members of local communities to engage in activities that fight climate change directly. One example will be our environmental club's eco-literacy campaigns, in which many of the members of the club researched the effects of plastic waste and pollution, and were able to effectively condense and spread this knowledge to the rest of our students through class presentations, flyers, posters, and especially with a collaboration with a big organization called the Greenberg Nature Center. Alongside many hands-on cleanup projects like our aqueduct cleanup project, because Dobbs Ferry is near the Croton Aqueduct, which runs for the entirety of Westchester, I believe, or at least the river towns. We've really began to mobilize the local community and improve our recruitments, and at the same time began to really fight and give our contributions in the fight against climate change and pollution and many other these problems. It is direct action is a great way to mobilize and recruit, and is a very efficient way to circumvent many of the problems that might arise in an organization when fighting climate change. Other than that, our ecology club has not been very active. However, we're planning this year, well, mainly due to the quarantine, but in this year we're planning to do a lot more of this hands-on activity as a way to start speeding things up, and we're really excited to start working with Green County USA as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Claudio. Yeah, love seeing direct action within schools, and more on that later. Our next school is going to be Edgemont, and Edgemont has prepared a video in advance that I'm going to share in place. I believe some people from Edgemont are here today, but they prepared a lovely video that looks colorful and amazing, and so we're going to watch that. So I will share that.
Living sustainably and educating yourself about the environment can be tough, but our goal is to take small steps towards helping our community towards the cause we believe in while having fun at the same time. We organized a school-wide seminar on environmental issues such as fast fashion, how to recycle properly, and sustainable living tips, how to raise awareness on what we can do to help out the community.
Another thing that we worked on was a collaboration with our local nature center to lead a monthly series of cafe-style meetings with STEM professionals to expose teens to futures in STEM in a cool way, which was a pretty big success, even though we did have to pause for COVID. However, soon we're going to be starting this up again so we can again serve the community.
So this is our garden. Over quarantine and before that, it was kind of neglected, but now we are trying to fix it up and make it a safe space for students. After school, they can hang out or just make it a safe, calming space to do homework and such things like that.
So one of our next big projects is an event that's going to combat landfill. It's a swap meet, so students are invited to come and swap, repurpose, exchange their clothes, and it's also stop them from going to landfill. This is a community event. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's for a really sustainable cause.
The Environmental Club is planning a collaboration with the Edgemont High School Democrats of America chapter because we believe that in order to reach true environmental change, we have to make policy changes. For example, most of the carbon emissions around the globe are because of corporations, and we believe that they need to be regulated.
That was a fantastic video. Oh my goodness. Great stuff is happening at Edgemont. Shout out to Edgemont. Very well done. And all the presentations from today, as well as that video, will be on our website. So you can check that out afterwards if you want to see more. Our next school, do we have Harvey School on here?
I think Elizabeth.
Elizabeth?
Yep.
Yes. Go for it, Elizabeth.
All right. Hi, I'm Liz, and I'm a student at the Harvey School. And unfortunately, my school doesn't really have an immediate plan for helping slow the effects of climate change. We have an environmental club at Harvey, and it proves to be knowledgeable and passionate for the earth. I've seen that there have been great efforts to reduce waste and recycle as well. I'm hopeful that Harvey will continue to grow as conscientious students and as an educated whole. Harvey believes that our planet is important, and it is this generation that can help slow the effects of climate change. The amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is greatly above the average line and will only continue to rise if we don't do something to affect this. Even small things that might seem menial can prove to be vital in the solution, and I will continue to pursue this throughout my senior year. I hope that the students at Harvey will not only support the measures to slow climate change, but also continue to actively figure out solutions. Thank you so much for coming from Harvey, and I hope to continue to work with you and come up with ideas to affect climate change on our campus. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, that's wonderful. Our next school is the KO School. I think we have Michael. So take it away.
Yes. Thank you. So my name is Michael Covens. I teach biology and environmental science at KO Academy of New York. We do not have an environmental club per se, but this year we did add an environmental committee to the Student Government Association, as well as the environmental science classes new this year as well. Our environmental committee chair, Yu Shimizu, really wanted to be here and talk with you all, but unfortunately the students have classes and activities Saturday morning and weren't able to make it. So being very new, we don't have a lot of stuff going on just yet, but Yu does have a program that he's very excited about. We hopefully will be implementing it within the next week or two, and it's a supply and food recycling program. So we are a boarding school. The students do live in dorms together, and he did notice that there was a lot of extra school supplies and snacks that the students get sent from their parents that gets thrown away and wasted. So he is planning on setting up boxes in various parts of the school where any school supplies that are going unused can be placed for students who might need it to pick it up, so they don't go and buy new supplies and we end up wasting stuff. Any snacks that students get sent that they're not going to eat, of course, non-perishable, unopened food can be placed in there for students to pick up. There's definitely a lot more we can do and we do plan on doing, but that is our first initial step as being a new environmental friendly school. And yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Our next school is Mamaroneck with Jen. So Jen, take it away.
Hi everyone, I'm Jen. I'm a senior at Mamaroneck High School. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm super excited to talk about what our environmental club has done. So call ourselves Eco Reps. That was kind of the name that my friends and I decided to take on. I think maybe it was 3 years ago that we created the club. And in the meantime, we've kind of focused our initiatives on mainstreaming our school recycling system. In our district, there's some inconsistencies with like a dual stream and a single stream recycling system. So we've tried to, at the very least, really push education on students and staff on how to properly recycle. So we were doing a lot of campaigning about like recycling right. And last year with COVID, we were meeting all virtually, so that was definitely a challenge. And we focused mainly on different environmental topics to educate ourselves on so we could really feel like we were environmental representatives at our school. So that consisted of like pollution and lowering carbon footprint, so kind of more individual acts as opposed to policy change on like a more local scale. And this year, some of our upcoming things we want to work on, we're really going to push for a no idling campaign, focusing mainly on the students and staff at Mamaroneck High School. There's some issues with like our senior parking lot, so kind of on the lower scale. And we also want to be doing an electronics drive because a lot of people have old cell phones sitting around. We figured those can be collected and taken care of in a sufficient manner. So that's kind of my spiel. It's exciting stuff, definitely on like a lower scale, but we also encourage a lot of activism. Like I'm part of Sunrise Westchester with Caitlin, so getting those students involved outside of school is really important as well. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, awesome stuff happening in Mamaroneck. Not biased at all. Anyways, our next presentation, so sorry, on our alphabetical order got a little bit messed up, but we're gonna have Ardsley present, who is here, and they do have a presentation. So you'd like to unmute, and then I can also make you a co-host if you would like to, unless, do we have their presentation?
I just received it right now.
Okay, then Paul can share the AHS Green Club presentation. So go ahead, Ardsley. Ardsley, you here?
Yeah, they didn't fill out the form.
I'm from Ardsley, but I am a new advisor, so I am not sure what's going on with our group.
We
So
have
that's part of the presentation.
we received a private message, Paul, did, from Yahir.
Yes, we're Alexander Hamilton. We're not Ardsley.
Alexander Hamilton. I thought you were Ardsley. Got it. Okay. AHHS. There's an H there too. Go ahead. Still, regardless. I apologize. That was on me. Yeah. So Paul's got your presentation. Go for it.
So, hi, I'm from Alexander Hamilton. My name is Yahir. I'm basically a co-president. If you just continue to the next slide, since we only have 2 minutes, I'm gonna go through this fast. Alexander Hamilton High School Green Club is an after-school green club that meets weekly every Thursdays. It's led by this year by me and another person also named Jair, who is also my other co-president. As of right now, we have 55 members, which is mostly high schoolers and also community volunteers. And this is our 3rd year running the club. So yeah, next slide. So if we go to the next slide. Yeah, so on the left side, hand side, you see every year we do, for Earth Day, we lead events for Earth Day. So basically for one of the events we kind of did was basically made, we went on the roof of our school and basically took a photo of us like spelling out Earth with us, which was kind of cool. And on the right-hand side is usually our weekly meetings, like I mentioned. This is actually the first meeting that I led this year with my co-president Jair. And yeah, so next slide. So our Green Club has basically 3 missions: to introduce the idea of sustainability, energy, and efficiency, and eco-friendly habits at our student body and the community; to interact and get involved in the community events regarding the environment, and creating a culture of eco-friendly habits at Hamilton. So anytime we're striving to do goals this year or whatever we want to strive to do, or events we're leading, we think of those 3 main missions and those goals. So next slide. So our accomplishments. We did finish our sustainable garden, which was a 2-year project. It's started by our founders, Chris Yosak and Savi Boyini, and it was ended by Jacqueline Prano. She was last year's president, and it was kind of a big accomplishment for the whole Green Club as itself, because we kind of started before COVID, and when COVID hit, we kind of had to like drop it. And it was kind of interesting because even though we couldn't physically do the garden, we were trying to do virtual meets every week and trying to still go through with our plans. And then also our district, EUFSC signed the carbon neutral pledge, Let's Go Zero. It was signed by our superintendent, Dr. Bayako, and made Elmstead the first district in our country to do so. So yeah, next slide would be, if we go to that, our goals for this year: we want to educate through our Green Club. So we want to teach other members of our community that are non-Green Club members, staff, whether that be teachers, etc., about eco-friendly habits. And we are thinking of teaching through our teachers and incorporating it into the lessons. So basically, I heard from multiple, from our science department in our school, they really are interested in this. And they want to find a way where when we grow stuff in the garden to incorporate that in their lessons, whether that be learning about plant cells, understanding how to do planting different vegetables or whatever. So it kind of incorporates in their lesson plan. And also we want to continue on the sustainable garden that we finished last year. So basically just maintaining the garden, ensuring that 100% of the space is efficiently used throughout the school year. And if we go to the next slide, it's actually the process of me and everyone else of the Green Club building the garden. It was a really, really triumph for us once we finished it. If you go to the next slide, you can actually see when we actually revealed it. So that's, as I mentioned, that's Jacqueline Painter, who, if you see on the left side corner, talking, and also on the right side corner, that's Executive George Latimer, who also came to the opening event. Also, you see our Superintendent, Dr. Bayako, who signed the carbon neutral pledge, which was an awesome thing to do. And if we go to the next slide, I always, anytime I present something, I always like to leave on a high note. So if you don't know The Alchemist, which is one of my favorite books, it's a really, really good book. I really recommend it. And one of the quotes is, when we strive to become better than we are, everything around us becomes better too. And I cannot agree with this more than anything, especially when our goal for Green Club, this is really, really goes with that. So yeah. And the next slide. So if you have any questions, please contact me or Jair, my other co-president. We also have an Instagram account. So if you want to look through that, daily we post what we're doing each week when we have our weekly meetings. If you want to stay in contact me or want to ask me questions about, or Jair questions about the garden, how we did it, and the process of doing that, we would more likely to like to help you, because we want to kind of stay connected. And yeah, so that's basically it. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you so much. That's awesome. Yeah. So you guys are in Elmsford. Amazing. Okay, our next presenters will be from Portchester. So Gwen from Portchester.
Oh, hello. We have a presentation to go with the.
Awesome. I got the presentation going.
Wonderful. Thank you.
This is a combination, educators and students, I think, from Portchester.
Yes, my name is Jennifer Carrero Dominguez. I'm One World Educator.
Take it away.
I'll be presenting with my teacher colleague, Ms. Maria O'Brien, science teacher at Park Avenue Elementary School, and Gwen Dominguez, who is a high school student member of One World Club, and also my daughter, so we're kind of a One World family. You could go ahead. So Portchester overview, we're 6 schools comprised of 4,400 students, and our goal is to use sustainability to build global competence. Next, thank you. So we have been partaking in an eco collaboration for celebrating Earth Day. For example, in 2020, we did the Eco Acts One World Challenge, and the Eco Acts are designed to reduce our carbon footprint. In the weeks leading up to Earth Day, One World schools across the world conducted 80,000 Eco Acts, reducing our carbon footprint. Some examples were students walked or rode their bikes to school, which we also just last week celebrated Walk to School Day in our district as well. They gave up meat for 1 week. They even turned off the lights at home. And you could maybe share that video link to show our Earth Day celebration lead off. Okay, next. Okay, so here is how the Portchester schools work with the United Nations to become the first district in the United States to become carbon neutral with the UNFCCC. Here's the process. We measured our carbon footprint by coordinating with the school leaders to figure out our energy usage and collect emissions data. We reduced by making a commitment to reduce our carbon footprint where we could, and we offsetted. We used the offset as a learning tool for our students as well. Okay, so here's how we measured our carbon footprint. It was great to work with Miguel on that as well. So first we filled out the table and sent it to the UNFCCC. Next, the UNFCCC calculated our greenhouse emissions. After that, the UNFCCC reported back that we generated 184 tons of greenhouse gas emissions.
Jen, just one thing I want to highlight here. So again, we've talked about this being a process. So Portchester was the pilot, and you see the table they filled out. The UNFCCC has come up with a calculator now where each school can do it on their own as we look to grow this program. So this is the way it was, and now we're moving to the calculator. Thanks, Jen. Next slide.
Thank you. So now I'm going to introduce my colleague Maria O'Brien to talk about how in our teaching we were able to reduce and learn about offset.
So the next step in the process is reducing, and was to reduce our carbon footprint. And to reduce our carbon footprint, we planted several gardens. We did one pollinator garden and one vegetable garden. And then we also taught the students about hydroponics and have 2 hydroponic towers. We also encourage eliminating plastics, single-use plastics. We installed new water filters, which now allow the students to refill refillable water bottles. We installed new lightings that were based on movement. And as a school, we took the One World Eco Passport project school-wide. Next slide, please. The next part of the process was using the offset as a teaching tool. And Miguel showed you some of these earlier. So we had the students research and we had them vote between these 5 projects. Next slide. The students learned about the geography and needs of each country. Next slide. At a school-wide assembly, we revealed the offset and we made a donation to India with a waste heat recovery treatment plant. Also at this assembly, we introduced the Sustainable Development Goals, the UNFCCC climate change process, because we wanted to get the students involved and excited so that they can bring this home. Next slide. In recognition of this, the United Nations sent our school a certificate. Next slide. And I'm going to introduce Gwen, one of our One World students and high school student.
Hi, everyone. So all 6 Portchester schools, Portchester High School, Portchester Middle School, Park Avenue School, King Street School, Thomas Edison School, and John F. Kennedy, followed the same process: measure, reduce, and offset. And if you would like to learn more about Portchester's experience, you can click the link posted in this presentation. Next slide. And Portchester schools were recognized by New York State School Board Association as a champion of change. We learned how much of an impact we can have, and we are determined to contribute even more. And especially now that we're back to full in-person learning, I'm really looking forward to continuing our sustainability efforts and taking what I learned from this conference and trying to implement more efforts into our schools. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you so much. Our next presentation is going to come from Rye, and that's going to be with Dylan.
Yeah. And that's just this.
Yeah. So, you know, what I love about our club is, in spite of being founded very recently, some years ago, in spite of COVID, we've been able to do a ton. We focused on high visibility, fun initiatives that introduce students, parents, and administrators to the issues. Fabric project, we touch fabric and turn into tape back. People that textiles and sustainable fashion, stuff like that. We did a podcast, where, that sort of thing. It was also fun. Introduced a lot of people to the issue. Started recycling things in every single classroom. So we like the papers for that. Work on future projects with us. Leaders of the club. Call. I met the great leaders. All of this and all the other slides are going to be on our website. And the contact details for all the clubs. So it includes every single club. Let's reach out to other clubs. Let's do cross-district initiatives and projects.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah. Great job. Okay, our next presenters are is going to be Scarsdale. I believe Scarsdale also has a presentation. Yeah.
Awesome. So, do you see the slide, Kayla? Okay, awesome.
Just start and it'll be up in a second.
Okay, so hi guys, my name is Rita Iyengar. I'm presenting on behalf of Scarsdale High School and the Scarsdale Project Green Sustainable Club. And so what is Project Green? Project Green is, their main objective is to advocate for issues of climate change and areas of improvement within the Scarsdale High School and the surrounding Scarsdale community. Next slide. Okay, so what we do / what we have done. So aside from trying to get people more involved in the fight against climate change by organizing meetings, the club has educated students on different topics of sustainability, such as sustainable farming, electric cars, and more. The club has also organized bike to school days, and that is actually that has helped. Along with that, they have implemented bike racks in our school, more bike racks than there used to be. And that actually, that in turn was really good as students were biking more to school than driving to school. They have transformed collected cardboard boxes into bins for recycling school supplies, formed rallies at our school entrance to advocate for climate justice, and proposed and successfully implemented bike racks, as I just mentioned, so that there's less carbon emissions. The club has also encouraged members to connect with nature and look after the community through fun events such as the scavenger hunt. And as I've recently learned that connecting to nature is very important to become more sustainable, as the more we're connected, the more we care about nature and being more sustainable in our environment. And before the pandemic, the club members were recycling rangers, in which the club officers and the members stood by bins. We had implemented recycling, composting, and trash bins in the cafeterias to help students store food in the proper bins and make it easier to store food in the correct bins. And lastly, what are we doing after COVID, after the pandemic? So far, the club has is inviting the younger community of the high school to join to care more about sustainability. It's a slow start, as we all know. We had the flooding and a slower start to school as schools have opened like in person after the pandemic. And the first event that they are trying to do is to assemble a Bronx River cleanup. And as they said, they're easing into the start of school and getting more traction for events. And hopefully COVID will be able to permit us to have more events and for us to actually, help out. So yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So we have a few more presentations. I'd just like to remind everybody to try to keep it to 2 minutes. We're not being super duper strict on time, but we might start doing that because we are running incredibly behind right now. And we want to make sure everybody isn't like zoning out and such. So the next presentation is going to be from White Plains. I believe White Plains also has a slideshow that I'll share in a sec. Go for it.
Hi, my name is Sophia Alexandru. Joining me are our co-presidents Lily and Rasha. Our club is called Advocates for the Earth. You have the slideshow.
Yeah, I have it in PDF form. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, great. Yeah, so we're called Advocates for the Earth. All right, can you go to the next slide, please? Our mission is to serve and educate the White Plains community on environmental issues and to create local change.
Our goals for the year is we're gonna work with a nonprofit called Tree Plenish, and it's basically founded by college students who will provide us with tree samplings to plant in our community. We want to host a 5K to raise money. We want to speak out to the lower schools to talk about environmental problems and just everything like recycling and all that stuff that they can implement. We want to install solar panels at our school and make Ecosia our main search engine. Basically, Ecosia, for every 40 searches, they will plant a tree. And we want to host environmentally educational movie nights just to open for like all school districts to come and learn about the environment.
So our club was established in 1970. We've had 3 advisors and we've had a multitude of accomplishments over those 50 years. We have saved, last year we saved our school's Japanese elm. This is a photo of us around the tree. We've fundraised and paid for hundreds of acres to save hundreds of acres of rainforest. When I was a freshman, we hosted a walkout inspired by Greta Thunberg's Fridays for Change. When Albany didn't have recycled plastic bottles, our club lobbied for the recycling of plastic bottles. We created a school-wide recycling program, and we do an annual Clean Up the Bronx River.
Just a little plug, make sure to follow us on Instagram at WP Advocates for the Earth to get updates on our projects and maybe some inspirations for your schools on projects that you can do to help our environment. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Our next presentation is going to be from the Westchester Youth Empowerment Council for Change, which is not a school club per se, but is actually a part of the Westchester County Youth Bureau, which is part of the county executive's office. And I think we have Rita and Shweta is still on. Going to talk about that.
Awesome. Unfortunately, Shweta had to leave, but so we all have been doing this for the past, at least I have been doing this for the past year and a half. And yeah, we're going to explain what YUCC is. So next slide, please. Okay, so the YUCC, or the Youth Empowerment Council for Change, is the youth council that is part, like Caitlin mentioned, part of the Youth Bureau of Westchester County, which wants to promote youth engagement through means of subcommittees. We focused on sustainability, and these students have projects in their area of interest and have been trying to implement it where we believe it's necessary. Recently, we've been focusing on helping the schools or educating the schools. And yeah, so next slide, please. So what have we accomplished in the past? Well, to start off, the YCC, like I mentioned, has 3 committees, one being sustainability, which we've been focusing on, youth well-being and social justice. And like I said, today we'll be focusing on the sustainability subgroup. In the past, we've hosted a food webinar in which we've educated students as well as discussed ways to lessen the amount of food waste in households and in general, and how to achieve that through means of composting. We've also advocated for the youth development programs to continue during the pandemic and for the proposed 5% budget cuts to be reversed across the entire state to senators. And our outcome was successful, so yay! We were able to reverse it. And here's a photo, if you guys can see, of I think one of our slides. from the food waste webinar. And in general, to summarize, the YCC has provided a space in which students' voices are heard and projects are implemented based on the students' and county's needs. Next slide, please. Okay, Claudia, you want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. Sorry about that. So in the future, alongside all these other great accomplishments that we've had, the YCC is planning to host a student-led youth summit in the county, not so dissimilar from this one over here, and alongside with many other smaller projects, like biodegradable water bottles, rooftop gardens, or solar panel on the roofs, rain catcher collectors, plastic bottles, spoons, forks, and knives, and removing these plastic utensils from cafeterias. All very small school-based projects, in which the student participation will be very crucial. And in the future, we will also have a webinar during the mental health month, although that will be more of the mental health committee, less the sustainability committee, and as well as a Westchester-wide recycling drive to help centralize recycling as to avoid pollution and from incinerations and such. And so yeah, that's what we've been doing and what we look forward to doing. So yeah.
Yeah, we hope to implement this post-pandemic, so we're super excited. And unfortunately, all these projects have been stopped due to the pandemic, but things are slowly getting back up. So hopefully, you know, positive, like everything is going to be happening soon. So yeah,
The
thank you
future
so
is
much.
bright.
Future is bright. Woo. Thank you. So we have two more presentations, and for the sake of time after that, we're gonna just do a short breakout room discussion. It's gonna be like 5 minutes, and then we're gonna move to super interesting little like rotational breakout rooms. You can hear about specific topics. So do we have Holy Child on? Rihanna, go for it.
Hi, my name is Rihanna. I go to Holy Child, and unfortunately, we don't have an environmental club, but me and my classmate Sophia are working closely with our head of school to sign the dual pledge, and we're very excited. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you so much. Our final presenter for today is going to be from Salesian and Bion. Go for it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bayan, and I attend Salesian High School. Our school currently doesn't have an environmental club, but with everything I've learned today throughout this conference, I plan to implement one in an effort to go carbon neutral. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That concludes our presentation. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put you guys in about like a 7-minute breakout room with people just to kind of debrief, because that was a lot of information. And yeah, so let me think to myself. That's going to be like, we're going to have 6 different breakout rooms. And you'll just go discuss. We're going to put some things in the chat in terms of questions to kind of guide your discussion. We'll be back in 7 minutes, and then we're going to take we're going to see if we want to talk about anything as a larger group. Then we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to get into the classes kind of things, like 15 to 20-minute breakout rooms with experts in a few different fields if you want to hear about more general things in depth. Okay, here we go. I just realized the recording had been paused the entire time when we were doing that, which sucks, because I paused it when we were in the breakout rooms. Whatever, moving onwards. We have the ideas, we're fine, we recorded them, it's all good. Okay, but for these 2 rooms, you're gonna have 4 options of rooms that you can choose from, and I'll put the options in the chat. We have one on ESG and global economics in relation to the climate crisis, one on racial justice and climate justice, another one on technology, carbon sequestration, geothermal energy, and another one on youth advocacy and organizing. So that's more political organizing for climate change. And you'll be able to choose between these 4 rooms. You can choose 2 of them. We have 2 20-minute sessions, so choose 2 to go to, and we'll all split up. And so, yeah, that's what we're going to be doing after 5 minutes. I'm going to put a feedback form in the chat. You can fill out this feedback form now, or you can fill it out after you go to those 2 20-minute sessions. But if there's any chance, I know we've been on here for a really long time, you have to leave early. Just wanted to get that to you. We're also going to email it out to you. And that's also going to be how we kind of record what you guys were thinking in your breakout rooms. So there's options for like, oh, what do you want to see next? If you're a student or an educator and you want to get involved more with Greene County stuff in the future, so organizing, having this more continuous connection between schools and environmental clubs, there's a section on the form for that. Please indicate that you'd like to volunteer. It doesn't need to be a big time commitment, but we'd love to have you on board. That'll make sense. I'll put it in the chat and we'll be back in 5 minutes. Sounds good? Great. Claudia, yes.
Oh no, I was just waving. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like raising hand. Okay, cool. See you in 5 minutes. Bye.
Caitlin and Joe, I have to.
You should be able to choose your room once we open them. So again, our 4 options, and I cannot put this in the chat, but you'll see them. They're titled is Youth Advocacy and Organizing with yours truly, Racial Justice and Climate Justice with Paul, Technology and the Climate Crisis. Dylan's going to do that one, and then the economic response to climate change, and that's going to be with Joe and a couple others. If you are leading a room, then you've already been assigned your room, and otherwise you should be all set to go. Hold on one second. Okay, awesome. So the rooms have been opened, and we'll see you in there, and we'll be back in 15 to 20 minutes, and then we're going to wrap up at 12. Can people join rooms?
Yeah,
Is everybody in the right room? Or we've not been allocated yet?
We have been allocated. The internet in the place that we are right now just shut down for a quick sec, which kind of sucks. I'm gonna rename all the rooms because they got unnamed, which also is not good. Technology, we overwhelmed the system. My God.
Our internet went down?
Yeah, internet went down for a sec. Did you not get that?
I don't know.
Okay.
Emma and Michael will be allocated.
Yeah, this is not good. Okay, all the breakout rooms just went out entirely. Wait, caramba. Hold on. We're gonna redo these. We're gonna
be live here as a group, though, right?
No, we are live right now as a group. Yeah. So because it just shut down for a sec on my computer, and I'm the one that created the rooms, and then it went back to our old rooms.
Caitlin, haven't we signed 40 minutes to this last session?
Yeah, so we can just cut it down to like.
If everybody doesn't mind, why don't we each take 10 minutes for the 4 sessions we have?
No, we'll just do the breakout rooms. We'll just do for 15 minutes instead of 20. I'm just renaming them right now, and we'll be open in a sec. And
well, while you're working on that, can I then just begin to talk about what I was going to talk about?
No. Okay. They're open. You should be good to go.
They're open? Oh, great.
So Are you, oh, shoot, no, I didn't this time.
I had to reload my computer. Now it seems to be working.
No, I just closed them again. Technology is not on the side of us today. They're not going to have the fancy titles that they had before, but you'll get the point of what they're about. Now you should be good. Can everybody go to the bottom of their screen and choose a breakout room? Good? Yay. Sorry about that. We're good.
Okay, so Emma, Michael, we've got to choose our breakout room.
I can assign you, Joe.
Oh, can you assign Emma, Michael, and myself?
Could you,
You know, Joe, in those 10 minutes could be good for all of us to hear all the different breakout rooms if it seems like that's the issue problem.
No, it's fine. It's working now. People are going in. If you can't join the room, tell me and I'll assign you to a room. If you don't see how you can join them, this should be at the bottom of your screen. There should be 4 little boxes coming together.
Yeah, can you, hey, it's Allison Goggins. Can you put me in the economics
Yes.
room?
So far, it's just
Anybody else?
the speakers so far,
Youth
economic.
advocacy? Awesome.
All right, okay.
And I will be in the youth advocacy one very shortly to actually lead it. Chloe, Chloe, can you tell people that'll be there in a sec? Cool, thank you. Who else from here? What do people want to go to? Youth advocacy? Amazing. And Rebecca, I will be there in a second.
Economics is important, everybody. Come on, economics. Let's get some folks. Hey, Rihanna, yay.
Yeah, okay. You are co-host. Were you not co-host before?
I needed to rejoin you.
Oh, okay. Hold on. I gotta go in your breakout room then. Give me a second. Anybody else who's left over? Can you guys see breakout rooms? Okay, and Rebecca, you should be assigned to youth advocacy. Does that work for you? Okay, cool. I'm going. Wait, you're in technology. I'm joining. I can hear in, because we're all in the same like building, all the other breakout rooms happening, like in the other rooms of this. So they're winding down currently.
Hey, Caitlin.
Hi, welcome back, everybody. We're gonna open up the breakout rooms once more after this, and you can try to hop on one that you weren't in before. Anybody in the youth advocacy one, by the way, I will be a little bit late too. I think I should have made that clear before the other one, just make sure everybody gets into the rooms. Okay, everybody's back. And so we're going to create them and rename them. Everybody enjoy their breakout room, learn some new stuff.
Strong, yeah.
Awesome.
Let's all meet at Walter's Hot Dog for lunch.
Yeah, Walter's hot dog. It's right near where I live. That's great.
And the high school.
Okay, I'm opening up the rooms once more.
Mamaroneck spoiled.
Yes,
Caitlin,
Mamaroneck is spoiled.
will you assign us again, or?
Yeah, I'll assign you.
So Emma, Mike, and myself. Yep, thank you.
No problem. And you should be able to choose as well. Okay, is everybody able to choose? We having like option paralysis or whatever that's called? Maybe. Okay, I'm gonna head into the youth. Oh, actually, anybody need to be assigned to a room? Racial justice? Okay, cool.
Am I in my economics?
No, I'll assign it to you. Who's that who just spoke? Got it, Michael.
Thank you.
Okay. Everybody else okay? Okay. I'm gonna assume so, and I gotta go. Bye. Welcome back, everybody. These people are coming back. We've made it to the end. Go us. Woo. I'm going to start putting in the chat the feedback form. We're going to close up. We don't have much more for you guys. But if I guess we could all just like maybe stay to the end, maybe we take a couple screenshots of just everybody being like, woo, Green County, Westchester. Here's the feedback form, and we're going to email this out. If you could all fill this out, it doesn't take that long. It'd really help us out in terms of planning this in the future. Yeah, so there's the feedback form in the chat. I'll put it again in 1 second, just in case people are coming in and didn't get it. There's the feedback form. Yeah, I think our final thing here is I think we're just gonna take a screenshot of everybody, and be like, woo, Green County. So turn on your camera or turn off your camera, whatever you would prefer.